If you want to join the military, you need to understand 3 things. No one cares. It's not about you. You are replaceable. And how hard you work does not matter. And I'm not saying that to be super negative. I'm not saying that to scare people away, but I'm just telling you guys that joining the military is not a decision that's about you. It's not about you. It's not an organization based on any one individual. You are joining an organization where you are part of a very efficient, very large group of very specialized people that work together to accomplish a common goal. And that works great for accomplishing those goals, but at the same time, there are a lot of negatives when it comes down to wear and tear on the individual parts of that big old machine I'm talking about, right? Now, I wanted to make these videos because I have a friend of mine who I met through gaming, who's younger than me, early 20s, who is really thinking about joining the Marine Corps. And I served in the Marine Corps. I wanted to do 20 years. I got out for medical issues, among other things, and I wish I was back in every single day. It's rough. And I thought, you know what, I can't be in the military, but maybe I can help some people who really want to go down that path in their life, survive, and maybe even thrive. But again, a lot of the times it's not up to you, and that's why I wanted to make this video. So let's start off with my story in the military. I wanted to join the military at 17. I went down to my recruiting station, which is Albuquerque North, and it's a recruiting station that covers, I want to say, West Texas, Southern Colorado, and Eastern Arizona. I could be wrong, but I want to say it does. And it was an interesting story. I walked into the recruiting office. I talked to the main recruiters there. I think the first one I talked to, I'm not going to tell you their exact names. I don't want to dox anybody here, but we'll call one like Morano. We'll just call him, like, at the time, Staff Sergeant Morano. And he basically sits down and talks to you like, what can you do for the Marine Corps, right? You go to the Army officer like, hey, we can give you college. Hey, we can give you that money to buy that Charger you want, you know? And then the Marine Corps is like, all right, why would the Marine Corps want you, right? So that was the immediate like difference that jumped out at me for the Marines. So this is going to be from a heavily Marine Corps perspective, right? Anyways, you sit down. He asked me like, okay, you need to categorize these things. What makes you want to join the Marine Corps? And I chose, I want to say it was like adventure or something. It was like self-improvement or courage or something like that. And then I think the other one was service, because like, it sounds really cheesy and stupid, but I really believed in the military. I really wanted to serve. I had a lot of family members who were like firefighters, people in the military, including Marines and soldiers, people in the Air Force and the Navy, like the whole gambit, as well as police officers. So it was like service was a big thing. And the way I was raised, so I was like, yeah, I want to serve. And I really valued that ideal of service to your country and the people around you. And people are like, oh yeah, you're just saying that, but like, no, I genuinely did. Like, my dad raised me that way. And that was one of those huge like driving factors in why I wanted to join the military. And he was like, okay, cool. He was like, well, I'm going to tell you something. He's like, I don't want you to be a Marine. And he basically told me, he was like, look, you're too out of shape and you're too soft-spoken and you're not doing anything for anybody else right now. So basically he told me, like, you say you want to do these things, but you're not doing them. Why would you do them now? Essentially, right? So he called me out hard. Called me out. And he was a new recruiter at the same, or that was like the staff sergeant at the time. And then he assigned me to another recruiter, which I thought was really weird, because it's like he said that to me and then he didn't like kick me out of the office, and he kind of like sat me there. I don't know, maybe he was trying to see if I was going to get up and leave, if I got offended, I don't know. But then he assigned me to this other recruiter, smaller one, who was, again, new, and he was trying to sell me hard on it. And then, again, he ended up leaving. He got his orders to go back to his unit, whatever. I don't know exactly what was going on. But I ended up going with, like, Staff Sergeant, we'll call him Staff Sergeant Kanish. Staff Sergeant Kanish was a sergeant at the time. Really jacked dude, really short, massive build though. Like, man, he looked like he was literally built like the Hulk, but he was like 5'4" or something. It was a small guy, just ripped, right? And he was super moto guy. I could tell you a lot of stories about that, but he basically sat me down and said, look, I'm gonna get you into shape, but you're gonna put in the work. He was like, I'm not going to allow you, because he became my official recruiter at that point. Like, on paper, he was the one signing my name. He essentially said, like, look, I'm not going to let you join the military. He's like, I am your barrier to entry right now. I'm not going to let you join it. unless you get into shape, unless you like show me these things. You show up to every workout, you show up to every pool function, and if we need you to come do stuff, you're gonna come do it. I did it, right? So my first contract I wanted was infantry. They were pushing hard against it because a ton of people were joining infantry at the time, and it was very competitive, right? A lot of people wanted to join because this was the whole ISIS thing. Everybody thought we were going to war, so we had a bunch of really motivated people joining at the same time, and everybody was joining the Marines. And of course, if you're going to join the Marine Corps, you want to do Marine stuff, you want to go infantry, right? So I want to go infantry. There were no boat spots available. Everybody was joining infantry, and a lot of people joined where I'm from, Albuquerque, New Mexico area. Marine Corps recruits heavily from New Mexico. But anyways, no boat spaces available. I was in the depth, so there's like they don't want you staying there too long. So they're like, okay, well, let's start exploring other options. They're like, what else would you want to do? I was like, oh, I'd think about doing armor. And then you look at armor, no armor positions available. All the boat spaces were taken up, so no armor. The next thing was like, okay, well, let's take the ASVAB and see how you do. Took the ASVAB. I did really good on it. I got a 94 out of what I think it's out of 99. I don't think the ASVAB goes all the way to 100, but I got a 94. Not bragging, anything like that. That's just, it is what it is. And then the thing that matters in that is your general technical score. I think, gosh, I either got like a 126 or 136 on my GT score. I don't even, does it even go that high? I don't remember. It was either one of those two. And I scored on those two things. I scored like, of all the people in the pool at the time, in like the top 99 percentile, right? And the military is not like school. They don't care about your safe spaces. At least the Marine Corps doesn't. The Army definitely did, especially when we worked with them. But when you took these like practice ASVABs and stuff, the recruiter would just grab the piece of paper, print out everybody's scores next to their name, and just tape it to the wall on like this cork board, or just slap it on the cork board. So if you did really bad, everybody knew you did really bad. If you did really good, everybody knew you did really good. So a lot of people were just talking crap to me, making fun of me because I did really good. But I mean, you know, it's banter, right? You have to get used to that in the military. But the recruiters were like, oh my God. And two of the recruiters were saying, all right, I'll take him. And they all try and like convince to trade me because of that score. I kind of felt special, but like, this is one of the first times I'm going to tell you, this is why you are not special in the military. When nobody cares how good you are or how hard you work. It's not what the military is about. The military is about doing what's best for the military for mission accomplishment, right? So they were kind of arguing, trying to get these contracts, because if you fulfill like high demand, low density jobs and stuff, they get incentives as recruiters to do it. So of course they wanted to get me into a really high job because they would be the one that recruited me and it would look really good for them, right? So they started bringing up all these really high-end jobs, like jobs in the intelligence fields, jobs in avionics. I remember they really wanted me to take an avionics contract. The other one really wanted to take me to take a contract for military intelligence. It's called crypto linguist. That was one of the jobs I wanted, and that was the one I ended up choosing ultimately, but didn't work out. And then I even had a recruiter come from next door, right? A Navy recruiter came and said like, hey, I have Navy nuclear contracts right now. We're trying to fill them up. I really think you would be a good fit for that. So by scoring that high, I had a lot of these people trying to throw jobs at me. And I knew about a lot of these jobs because I thought about joining the Navy in high school for a little bit. I knew what a Navy nuke was, and I had almost gone down the route of walking into the Naval Recruiting Office and doing that. It didn't work out because I didn't ultimately want to join the Navy. Next thing happened, I walk into the other recruiting office, and we're back in the Marine Corps recruiting office another day, and he pretty much says, okay, these are the contracts we have available. He's like, you qualify for every job in the Marine Corps. Basically, choose your pick. And he was like, I'm going to recommend the higher up ones because when you get out of the military, you're going to be wearing a suit and tie and getting six figures of pay. And I was like, okay, cool. So he was like, the best one we have right now, one of the ones that we don't really get a lot of people going into, especially from around here, is crypto linguist. And he was like, you need to go take the defense language aptitude battery. So I take it. It's another test, and it's like categorized in 4 different categories. I did really good on that. I scored category 4, which is the highest category. And then within category 4, I scored in the very high end of category 4. And less than 12% of the population gets past category 3. So I did very well in defense language aptitude battery. And that basically allows you to do the hardest languages like Chinese, Korean, Arabic, and stuff like that. Those are really high demand languages right now. And they really were about it. They're like, yeah, you're going to do this. So they decided, like, hey, you took the defense language aptitude battery. We're going to lock in this contract, crypto linguist. And I was so excited about it. I was so happy. I was like, I'm going to be in military intelligence. I'm going to be intercepting communications. It's going to open doors up for me to do stuff like counter intel and, you know, surveillance, jobs with the NSA, all this other really cool stuff. and I was really excited about it, and I was telling my mom how happy I was about it, my dad, and they were so proud, right? But then again, I lost that contract. I lost that contract. I show up to the recruiting office one day for a pull function because I had to work out Tuesdays and Thursdays at minimum. I had to work out on my own time and prove that I was working out, like take pictures and stuff with my recruiter to show them like I was, doing what I was supposed to be doing and all this other things. And they had told me that basically my contract fell through. And they're like, yeah, the contract's no longer available. And I was like, oh, really? Because I had already signed the paper, which is weird because when you join the military, you sign two contracts. You sign your initial contract to enlist, and then you sign it again right before you ship out. And then you take the oath of enlistment twice, right? Well, all of a sudden, a kid I grew up with, because everybody where I was, we all knew each other. Albuquerque, Rio Rancho, we all grew up together in the same ROTC programs and stuff. Like, we all knew each other, right? This kid, we're going to call him Cappuccino. I grew up with him since kindergarten. That's how long I've known this kid. He was severely dyslexic, and that's nothing against him. He was a great guy, good shape, motivated. He had a lot of family members in the Marine Corps, and that was one of the reasons I think a lot of the stuff happened. Again, I can't really speak out against him or his family. I don't know what their character of service was like or what they were like in and out of the uniform, but I can tell you a lot of weird stuff happened after that, because he was telling me when I saw him one day, I was like, hey, what's going on, man? I was like, I thought you shipped out to boot camp already. He was like, no, I didn't. My contract changed. I was like, okay, what's your contract now? He was like, oh, contract just opened up for cryptolinguists and intelligence. And I was like, interesting. And I went in, I talked to my recruiter about it because I was an outspoken person. I really was. Like, I was a muckraker. And I did, and I was like, so what happened with my contract? And he was like, well, he's like, I'm gonna be honest with you, the decision wasn't mine, but it came down from like essentially the top, and like the top in the military terms, like there's a master sergeant, right? That's top. So he's like, came down from top that this guy was gonna get this contract, and I don't know what top he was talking about because I never met like a master sergeant at RS or anything, so I'm not sure. But I knew that this kid Cappuccino, his grandfather retired out of the Marine Corps and was like an E8 or E9 when he retired, and according to him, he said that my grandpa didn't want me to have an infantry contact, so he called the recruiting station and talked to him. And my recruiter had told me, so both the kid himself and my recruiter both like told me the same story, essentially, that they were essentially doing a favor for a really respected Marine that was retired, right? And that's fine and all, right? I mean, it's business, it's politics. People need to understand that about the military. It's very political, especially once you get to sergeant and above, right? But that hurt because I'd worked so hard in school. I had worked so hard before that. I had scored really well on the test, and that was my first introduction into it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good you are. It matters what works for the military. And at the time, what worked for the military is keeping a relationship with somebody who was doing a lot of stuff for the community in the recruiting station, and that was maintaining a positive relationship with that essentially alumni of the Marine Corps who was helping the recruiting station out a lot. So they gave his grandson the contract. And again, I don't have anything against this kid. He's a great kid. But I do remember growing up with him. I remember he was in really, really low-end reading classes. He was in a lot of remedial classes. He almost failed out of high school. Great kid, but very, very slow when it came to stuff like that. And the fact that he got that contract was kind of like... It was kind of jarring to me because everybody always told me the military is a meritocracy. You know, it's not about who you know, it's about who you are. It's about how good you are. And that's partially true. For the most part, I would say that is true in the military, but for the parts like that are key, I would say not at all. But like this legitimately happened. I have text messages. I have all the things I can show you guys, right? He ended up helping family members later and stuff down the road. I have nothing against them, against my recruiters, against that kid or anything. That's just the way the world works. That's political, right? But, you know, I scored in the top percent of the top percentile of all these scores, and I still couldn't maintain that contract. And a kid who he got category 1 on the D-Lab, and he had to take it twice because the first time he scored very, very low, right? And it's an aptitude battery, so you can't really technically fail it. It's just to gauge your potential, essentially. But they made him take it twice because he didn't qualify for really anything that the military cared about, right? And it's a big deal because this school is essentially like having a degree, right? It is very highly coveted in military intelligence communities to have those MOSs and have that training because they fluently teach you this language in depth to the point where a lot of people get out of the military and they have a doctorate level understanding of this language and all the details and the dialects and culture. Like, it's crazy how in depth they go. So it's a huge opportunity. And yeah, having that taken away sucked. And then I was like, okay, well, I want to go back to infantry then. I accepted it, and I was like, there's nothing I can do about it. What's done is done. It is what it is. It sucks, but it was out of my hand. There's nothing I could do, right? So I was like, all right, I want to go infantry. And the recruiters are really, really willing to work with me harder now because they realized, like, how much I was screwed over, essentially, out of that. So they're like, okay, what do you want to do now? They're like, these are the jobs you have available. And I was like, okay, well, I want to be a scout sniper. Just give me 0300. I want to be a scout sniper or whatever. And they're like, okay, well, you're probably going to go weapons platoon if you go because you have really high GT score. So you're probably going to be a weapons guy. And I was like, okay, well, what about assaultmen? They're like, they're about to phase assaultmen out. You can't do that. I was like, damn it, what am I going to do? So there's like, okay, well, we have LAR jobs. We have light armor reconnaissance, LAV crewmen. Those jobs were available. I think which is 0313 or yeah, it's 0313 I want to say is LAV crewman. And I was like, okay, hell yeah, I'll be in 0313. I'll be an LAV crewman because I thought LAVs were badass. One, because they are, and two, because they are. And you are still infantry, but you ride around in one of the coolest military vehicles in existence, you know? And you're doing some really high-tech observation and stuff, but they're like, we don't have any 0313 contracts available. And they didn't. Yeah, you couldn't really sign. So sometimes you can choose a specific job, sometimes you can't. Sometimes they're saying, okay, you're going to sign into this category of jobs, and you can get whatever job in there. So we tossed around these ideas a little bit, and then we finally came to these jobs. I did some research, and I was like, okay, well, I want to... I told him about, like, things I wanted to do in the Marine Corps, and he was like, okay, like, let me look. And I did a lot of my own research, and I found about a job called Fire Support Marine, which is 0861 Fire Support Marine. And that is essentially fire direction, in the sense of, sorry about that, but it's 0861 Fire Support Marine. And I actually kind of lucked out because not a lot of people know about this job, and it is one of the coolest jobs in the entire military, right? It's the pipeline to becoming a JTAC. It's the pipeline to doing some things like augments for special forces. You can essentially do a lot of really high-speed stuff, and it afforded me a lot of amazing opportunities in the military. So I got to serve in infantry units. I got to serve beside some people at really, really high... A lot of it I can't talk about. I did have a clearance. I would have had another clearance for the other job I did, but I mean, it was really cool stuff, guys. I loved my job. And essentially, the best way to describe it was, if you guys have ever seen the movie Wind Talkers, you're running around with radio operators and a fist team, and you're finding targets on the battlefield. You're calling in artillery strikes. You're calling in post-air support. You're calling in naval gunfire. You're doing fire direction and control sometimes, if you really need to, for like mortars and things like that. You're assisting machine gunners in doing indirect fire, which is defilade fire. There's a lot of stuff you do in that job, and it is one of the most highly skilled jobs in the military. And I didn't realize that because not a lot of people know about it. It is a very high demand, very low density job. They don't get a lot of people who have the aptitude for it, who also know about it and are willing to join it. And I don't know, it was a really cool job. But is it the job I wanted? No, it just kind of worked out for me that way. I had basically performed in a way that pretty much said, okay, you can get any job you want, go for the high-end jobs. Went for the high-end jobs, qualified for the hardest to get jobs in the military, other than special forces, and I legitimately proved that I was good enough for those, and I still didn't get the contract. You get what I mean? So that's just what I want to let you guys know. I don't want to let this video drag on too long or anything. It's already at like 19 minutes. I could talk for days and days and days about the situation, go into detail. If you guys have any questions, ask in the comments. Join the Discord if you want to know other things, and I could tell you more about it. But like, essentially, that's the way it boiled down. I just kind of want to show you, like, there were some people who did not like meet the burden of performance and who got positions they were not qualified for, and there were people who performed really well and didn't get what they qualified for when other people did who didn't. It's crazy. It's crazy how it works. But like I said, it's not about you. You're not the main character, you know. And a lot of people show these war movies where there's this one badass taking on an entire enemy like army. It doesn't work that way. You know, anybody's card can get pulled at any time, whether that's for a job, whether that's for, you know, not making it home, stuff like that. Like, it doesn't matter. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions a lot of civilians have, especially if they want to join the military. And I want to make sure, especially young people nowadays, with how volatile the world is they understand that it is not about you. You are replaceable, and nobody cares how hard you work. right? You should always work hard, just from a personal pride standpoint, from a personal fulfillment standpoint, work hard, right? But don't expect to be rewarded for hard work, because it doesn't necessarily coincide with reward, right? You shouldn't join the military because you want to be rewarded. And that's another story of because this time where I ended up joining the military, getting the contract I wanted, 0861 Fire Support Marine, that was my second time trying to enlist. This was when I was I was about to turn 19 at the time when I enlisted the second time. The first time I didn't actually formally enlist because I couldn't get my parents to sign when I was 17. They wouldn't. My dad wouldn't. He said a lot of pretty mean things to me as well, so that was rough. But yeah, I'll tell you more about that story later, but I just wanted to start off with this one because I wanted to start it off in an honest and real way to prove people. I don't want their first experience to be like, oh yeah, join the military, it's a great experience. I don't want people to be like, oh, don't join the military, it sucks, it's awful. I wanted to just talk about things in an honest way from the start. One, don't necessarily distrust recruiters, because I don't think they're all out to get you, but there are one or two that are just salesmen or out for themselves, and they will screw you over with their career. I got lucky. I did have some really good recruiters that tried to look out for me the best they could, and I have a lot of respect for those guys. But yeah, that's my first thing. Do not trust recruiters at face value, right? Trust is earned, not given. I don't care who it is. You know, they need to prove that they're really, you know, a force for good in your life. And two, nothing's guaranteed. No one owes you anything, especially in the military. It doesn't matter, you get straight A's, whatever, unless you get that RTC scholarship, there's nothing set in stone. Unless you are on the boat shipping out to that specific job in that schoolhouse, it can change at any time. And I know this wasn't the best video, I didn't explain it the best way, it might have seemed like I was going all over the place, but like, hey, this is just me speaking from the heart. I'll get better at it. I need to get back in the group, or in the groove of you know, doing these commentary things and doing these story time things. But it's something that's really near and dear to me, really important to me. And I hope that if you guys are thinking to join the military, you learn something from it. Like, you can understand how the process works a little bit more from my experience. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I answer every comment in my comments that's of substance. If somebody really genuinely needs or wants to know something, I go for it. Or join the Discord and shoot me a message, tag me, say, hey, Hyper, I have a question about this. And I would be glad to help you guys out. But anyways, yeah, this is Military Mondays, and I don't think I did that intro yet, but yeah, Military Mondays, I talk about things about the military, I play military-themed games, and we just hang out. A lot of the times I used to run charity things, I put that on pause because, you know, AdSense, and we just haven't gotten a lot of viewers, and I was losing so much money to the point where it's like, it's not sustainable. I have to feed, like, we have to eat too, we have bills to pay, I can't just keep putting money into that stuff, and nothing coming of it at the end of the day, so that's where we're at. Anyways, I think that's a good place to stop. Again, it may not be what you guys wanted to hear. It may not be what you expected, but that's just my first. This will be episode 1 of this whole theme of you're not the main character in the military, right? This will be episode 1 of that, because I have, again, like a million stories of how it doesn't matter how good you are or how well you perform, you still are not guaranteed anything. I'll continue that later. But yeah, this will be the first part of that, because this is my first introduction in the military of having an experience like that. But anyways, if you guys are thinking of joining the military, more power to you. Like, it's something not a lot of people are going to do. I don't care who you are, where you're from. You're awesome if you even want to put your name on that dotted line, as long as it's for the right reasons. And, you know, God bless you. You know, lots of luck on your journeys. And I hope whatever you choose to do works out for you. And if you ever need anything, don't be afraid to reach out. Anyways, you guys are amazing. I couldn't do my videos without all my wonderful Patreons and my charity donators. But yeah, I think that about covers it today for my little story time. And maybe it's depressing, maybe it's doomy and gloomy, but it's not. It's just realistic. It's not to depress you, it's not to scare you. It's just to show you that the real world is more nuanced than people might think. Anyways, I am rambling now at this point, and I realize that. So until the next video or stream, I will catch you guys next time. And peace.